welcome to the South by East podcast where we discuss scriptures, culture, and everything in between. I'm here. My name is Johnathan Brail with my co-host
Brail Watson.
Hey, and we're here for another session in the intersection. Hey, and today we're discussing Caitlin Clark. Whoo, man, I'm telling you what. I think they said the WNBA revenue has gone up by like 400%. Early in the season, like in the beginning weekend of the WNBA season, the Fever, Indiana Fever, that Caitlin Clark plays for, played the Los Angeles Sparks. And that game had more people in attendance than any Laker game.
Insane.
For the whole NBA season.
Insane.
Now, I want to remind you, if you don't know who plays for the Los Angeles Lakers, the Kang. LeBron James plays for, like, this guy is regarded as one of the maybe top two, top three, at least top five players in NBA history. Mm-hmm. And this young lady out of college, fresh, rookie, brought more.
Bro, the shine is crazy. And listen, I am not a sports watcher. I enjoy playing basketball. I don't watch it, never really have. But when I was growing up, I always knew the name of at least one basketball player. His name was Michael Jordan. Because some people just extend past the borders of the culture and the waters that they live in. You know them. If you think golf, you think Tiger. If you think basketball, you thinking Michael Jordan. If you were growing up a little later, then you might think Kobe Bryant. You know who those people are. I had never heard the name of the Indiana Fever until you just said it. And we doing an episode on Caitlin Clark. But I know Caitlin Clark. The shine that she's bringing to the WNBA is unprecedented. And I do know this, that the WNBA has always been outshined in sales and spectacle by men's basketball. And so this is kind of a historic moment.
And I'm going to tell you something. I'm not a foreigner to women's basketball because I'm from Texas. Yeah. And you might not. So Texas, especially out of college, I moved down to the Houston area, which is the home of the Comets, right? And, man, when they started up, they had Cheryl Swoops and Cynthia Cooper. Man, they had, like, this trio that was just bad, that was winning all these championships, man, when the league started. And so I was familiar with WNBA games and different things of that nature. Okay. But I'm going to tell you, in the same way, man, I was familiar with it, saw some different things, had watched some women's basketball, different things of that nature, had friends that played, but it was still different because, like this, before Tiger Woods burst onto the scene of golf, for most people in my demographic, golf was walking with a stick. Yeah. And then slow walking. And then man, Tiger Woods burst onto the scene, and we paid this whole different kind of attention, right? Yeah. You see stories of how Magic Johnson and Larry Bird saved the NBA, really, man. And so Caitlin Clark has had that kind of effect.
She's a lightning rod.
And she's a lightning rod. And here's the deal. I'll say this. Her college career can be put up against any other player's college career. It just can. Now, she is yet to be proven in the WNBA. She's already setting some good records and different things. She had a down game the other night, but she is still on a really good pace as a rookie player. And man, but a part of this, her coming in, right, she instantly became the highest paid player with endorsements and different things of that nature. And you would have thought, like, before this point, the women teams didn't get charters. They didn't get charter flights. They didn't get a whole bunch of deals, right? And since she's come, they've gotten all these things. And you would have thought there would have been celebration.
Right, but what was there, John?
There's been some tension in the room.
Some tension?
I'm going to say that. I ain't going to call it what some people have been calling it because I can't verify what's in somebody's heart. But there's been some tension in the room.
I want to translate. People been hating. There's been a lot of hate.
I mean,
there has been a lot
but
of
here's
hate.
Here's what you see. Like one of the most recent clips was when she played the Chicago Sky, and a player hit her. But what they only showed a part of the clip. They didn't show where Caitlin Clark fouled the young lady and then looked back at her and said something out of the way, ran back down court. All they caught was when the young lady scored, Caitlin Clark doing get the ball from the inbounds pass, and the young lady went in and laid into her and called her a name outside of her name.
Okay.
And so only that part was caught. And there was always broader context. There's always a backstory, but we missed that. But here's what I get more. Here's what's hard sometimes. When you've been a part of building something, and you feel like you've been grinding for so long, and then somebody else comes in and they get notoriety for this thing that you feel like you've been doing a lot longer. They get instant success when you feel like you have paid the cost and they haven't paid their dues yet. Man, it's so easy in our heart to get upset and to not see it as, how many times did I pray and ask for more attention and more spotlight on the cause that I'm for? Let me give you an example. You've heard me say pretty much on this podcast that, man, when it comes to cancer, there's a huge sucking sound around breast cancer, and it's that way, pun intended. It's that way.
Pastor John, everybody.
It's that way because when you think about the amount of funds that go into the different forms of cancer, man, Susan G. Komen came out with the Race for the Cure and everything else, and you see pink ribbons over everything. But let me tell you this, and so some of the other forms of cancer don't get the attention that they need and the research dollars that they need that could possibly drive them towards a cure, because there's such a huge vacuum towards breast cancer. But now, pretty much every form of cancer has its own color ribbon. The only ribbon we knew before the pink ribbon started with breast cancer was the yellow ribbons for soldiers in the Iraq War. If it wasn't for the awareness brought by the breast cancer issue, there wouldn't be any color ribbons for the other versions of cancer, period. So instead of getting upset, we should actually say thank you for bringing a highlighted cause to cancer, period. And now we can build off that platform and we can have a further discussion. Now, is it unequal? Yes. Can we start working toward equality? Yes. But it doesn't help cancer research at all to get mad and to talk down research going towards breast cancer.
Light from the moon is still light.
Man.
It's still light, and it still gives us visibility. You know what I think about when I think about this situation? Racism. But it's not probably in the way that you might think. When we talk about race relations in America, we often have this conversation about this thing called privilege. And when we talk about privilege, usually there is a certain color or describer put in front of this word privilege. And often people go towards this type of privilege when they start talking about things being unequal or the amount of suffering, the amount of time that goes in. And I always feel like this is a non-starter for the conversation, because the reason why people always go toward, but this is just privilege, this is white privilege, this is white privilege, is because often they feel powerless to change the situation that's happening in front of them. And so they go and, but this is white privilege, because when people feel fear and they feel powerless, they attack the image or the person that is most accessible to them. Caitlin Clark's circumstance has shed a light on an inequality that has existed in women's sports, on an inequality that has existed in not only sports, but in the entertainment business, on an inequality. That inequality is a problem. That inequality is a problem, and it's a problem that many people have been trying to fight, but they have not had the visibility. Now, due to Caitlin Clark's situation, they do. But instead of going, hey, see, women's sports, it's always been entertaining. We've always had great athletes. Let's look at the things that we're doing. We're saying, hey, how can we tear down Caitlin? People are saying, how can we tear down Caitlin Clark? and take away that light. And it's like, hey, her circumstance and her success doesn't invalidate all the rest of the work. And in fact, it can be used to uplift the stories of others in that circle.
And I want to be clear, man. Equality in this situation doesn't mean that right away the salaries are going to be the same. Here's why.
Right.
It's because of the revenue dollars brought into that league.
Come on.
And so a lot of people may be complaining about stuff, and it's like, okay, if you really believe that the wages need to go up for WNBA, then you're going to need to order season tickets, or you're going to need to get that TV subscription package and pay for that.
Put the dollars on.
Because here's the deal: if you want, like, I live out of market for my favorite team, so I don't get to see all their games, right? I don't, because I'm not going to pay for the NFL Direct ticket, which is, I think, what, $500 a year a season. Not gonna do it. Yeah, Jerry ain't never paid none of my bills, so he ain't getting no money like that, right? And so it's one of those deals that you look at a lot of times. Here's the deal: as leading a community development nonprofit and a church, oftentimes people will be passionate about something and they'll come to me and tell me what I should be doing because of their passion about a topic, and that's what we get into a lot. No, it's not worth our sacrifice, and we can't make the sacrifice. But Johnathan, you should be doing something. You should be making the sacrifice. You should be doing this, and we can easily be there. And so, Asia Wilson, man, if you don't know who that is, then you need to go look at her. She plays for the Aces. She's probably the best basketball player in the WNBA. And there was an outcry when Caitlin Clark got a shoe deal before she did. Asia is a accomplished writer of a best-selling novel, tremendous story. But the raise of the awareness did help her get a shoe deal. And so it's one of those deals where I feel like we need to be having better conversations. Yeah. And we need to be more forward-thinking. And I think it's too easy for us to get stuck in our anger that we don't get the solutions.
Yeah. And you miss what you can leverage because your attention is misdirected.
Yeah.
Your attention is misdirected. And there's a term they call it outrage porn, where people are just constantly looking for something to be angry about. Yeah. And when we're angry, just physically, when we're angry, our brains are not in the mode to develop solutions. Because the part of our brain that's responsible for complex thought and forward thinking, it shuts down. And when we allow ourselves to get so angry about problems that all we can do is yell about them instead of problem solve, we're shooting ourselves in the foot and we're missing opportunities that we could be leveraging.
Hey, bro, I'm gonna tell you something. I have to handle so much conflict just in the day-to-day life of just doing what I do for a living, that at night, if I think a TV show is going to have conflict in it, I won't even watch it. Bro, my
man on the whiz, he said, don't bring me
no bad news. You knew I was doing, man. I be on that. Yeah. I need a shirt like that quotes Eveline. Man, I'm just telling you, I deal with so much conflict and have to be like in that space where I'm like, I can't take my entertainment having that, man. Where it's like, I'm serious. If I think it's gonna be like conflict, like that's why I'm on these YouTube food shows, man, because there's no conflict, man. Bro, we eat noodles. We're going to buffets.
Hey, man, and I lose with my kids, man. I find when I get mad at my kids, I'm so much less creative. Where it's like I can spend 20 minutes angry, 10 of those minutes yelling at them, 10 more minutes mad, not doing the dishes I was trying to do, not getting the work done I needed to get done. When I'm like, when something happens and I go, all right, they kids, I expect them to do that. How can I use this to teach them? All of a sudden, I can flip that moment into something that's beneficial for them, beneficial for me. I can learn something about myself. But when I allow myself to just be overtaken by that indignation that this should have gone different, all of a sudden I end up making situations much worse for myself and wasting a whole lot of energy.
And here's the deal, man. I wish I could say I always respond. Right, but you get a chance to see me in a lot of vulnerable moments. Like you saw me this week where I I was in the middle of a meeting. I got called out of a meeting to get some really bad news.
Yeah.
And I came in, and at first I was like, I mean, because it was a gut punch, right?
Yeah.
And it had been a day already. And then I said, hey, I need a moment to process. And then I was able to say, okay, how do we go forward? And I was like, this is how I feel like we need to feel about it. And I'm like, and I was honest, my feelings are not totally there yet.
Yeah.
But here are where my heart intentions are. And I said, I want to wait to communicate till my feelings or where my heart intentions are.
Yeah, yeah. And that's just something for us to think about, man. Like, can we take the time to wait to communicate until our hearts catch up with our intentions? Until we have a chance to really look at a circumstance of the situation and go, hey, what is here that I can leverage? It's already happened, right?
Here's the deal I hate for that young lady who did the bump on Caitlin Clark is they are villainizing this young lady out there without showing the full clip, the full picture. And they're bringing up her past and everything else. And then what entrenches it is that now people are saying, well, I need to go back and show all the trash talking that Caitlin Clark did in college and how she shoved people to show. And so what we have a tendency to do is to build a bigger villain rather than offer bridges of reconciliation.
We got to humanize people. And as someone who works in the entertainment industry feeds off of our outrage. When we are outraged, they're making money, they're getting clicks, they're getting views, they're getting ad revenue. When we stop being outraged about things, the stories have to change.
And I tell you, one of the things I loathe is the Google review, social media posts, complaint culture that we live in. Yeah. I recently had I interacted with a local business. They made some mistakes and they asked for a survey. I kept ignoring. I was just gonna let it go. But they kept asking me to fill out a survey. So I told them about what happened. They called me immediately and they were concerned. I said, hey, I'm not gonna leave a bad Google review. It's not worth that. Right. I want to make you aware that the mistake was made. I don't think it was any damage done. I know mistakes happen. Hey, and you know where I sit on that. I loathe there. Yeah. I don't have that much time for things like that. I've had people come and do bad work at my house. And I just like, man, I could leave a bad Google social media review, but I like, what is that? It really is gonna come back at me, really.
Yeah.
It's not worth it.
No.
So I'm like, man, I process it through. If the person really wants that feedback to help them grow, I'll give it to them. But it's not worth me publicly shaming people. And we live in this culture, man, where we think that's going to heal our hearts, and it never does. All it leads is to more vitriol. So,
man, but that's where we're at, man. How are y'all feeling about it? Have your thoughts changed at all, or are you still hating? You still fighting? What is it? We want to hear about it, man. Talk to us down in the comments. We love the community that we've been building here, especially on Facebook. But if you're on YouTube, we love you too. Just leave them comments. We need y'all to leave them comments. So make sure that you like, comment, and share or subscribe. And we'll see you next week
in the intersection.